Hi, I'm Tom Hendrickson from the Agile Online Summit. We have with us today, Sarika Kharbanda is with us, and she is a global lean change agent and a change hacker. So, Sarika, introduce yourself to the people here at the Agile Online Summit.
Wow. I actually didn't know I was going to introduce myself, but this is good. I thought you were actually going to do the introduction piece, so I had nothing much to say. But okay. Anyway, like you rightly said, Tom, I look at myself as a global lean change agent and change hacker. And I call myself that especially because I think my job is to enable people to be able to see or expose the dysfunctions that we have in organizations so that we can, as change agents, enable the transformation of the organization from where they are to where they should be and nudge change forward with artful interventions, I would say. So that's typically me, and global because, yeah, I've pretty much worked across the globe trying to enable small hacks and small artful interventions. Happy to be here. Thank you.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, Sarika, we're so glad to have you part of the summit. You are a track chair. So your track is entitled Applying Agile to Change Management. So tell us what you mean by that.
Yeah, it was, first of all, interesting for me to even come up with that title when you asked me to come up with this whole, okay, what do you want to call your track? And as you know, we went a bit to and fro, and I was like, yeah, I think, finally I decided, okay, this is what I want to call it. And just to describe that, I think I'd start by saying that our minds, our brains are attuned to thinking of things in a very linear way. It's probably how we've grown up and, the conditioning of our brains. And yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. It's scientifically proven that's what it is. And we're used to looking at change with a very plan, execute, close, start, middle, close. That's our approach, which kind of gives our brains a feeling of certainty, forces us mostly to gravitate towards, I would say, structures or frameworks or fixed steps, which is going to help us kind of copy paste something in our own context, right? And then we hear a lot of people saying, oh, I've been trying to implement change and people are resisting change. They just don't get it, and all sorts of things. Which leads me to a couple questions, really. And two most important ones, I would say, are, should we really be pushing change to an organization that's not ready for change? And secondly, should we be using linear approaches to change today, even if these linear change approaches were really created before the internet and probably do not support the complexity of the world today, which is VUCA today? Volatile, uncertain, complex, ambiguous as we know it today. So I would say today's organizations and environments are much more complex. And then we have people. People are most complex. We are not yet working with only robots, right? We are all still people around.
Yes.
So I would say, given that, a more natural approach for me to look at organizational change today is to apply the agile lens to change management, which would mean applying the agile values and principles, not the practices. It's all about the values and principles that being applied to the change context, creating your own change manifesto for change, for organizations to be, let's say, more resilient, more flexible, and have a good balance between a push and pull of a change. I'd leave it at that.
That's very good. That's very good, Sarika. So what are your goals with creating this track?
A number of goals, actually. If I have to really put them down, I would say, let's say it's probably to bring about stories from organizations where we are seeing this balance between push and pull, because this push and pull approach to change, or the balance between the push and pull approach to change, is going to drive the business agility of an organization. That's one. Another one would be to be able to see the involvement of the people affected by the change in the design of the change itself. Rather than doing change at people, I would say I would like to see co-creation of change with the people impacted by the change. And then to understand probably the fact that organizational change follows the path of social change. It's no different. Mm-hmm. And another one probably could be to provoke meaningful conversations or meaningful dialogue, really, rather than just broadcasting stuff at people. So again, it's not at people, it's with the people and having that meaningful dialogue with people. And I think, two more points probably. The second last one would be, how do we really respond to change? Given that we want to bypass resistance, I think co-creation is one aspect, but how do we as change agents work with the people to be able to then respond to change and going away from blaming people for resisting change? Mm-hmm. And to sum that up, I would say, starting with the agile values and principles and being congruent with yourself. That I would think would allow us to change the way we think about change.
Yeah. Because us agile change agents ourselves, we need to kind of live those values, don't we? We can't just tell people about them.
Exactly. You've got to demonstrate, do what you preach what you do.
Mm-hmm. So true. So who would be the intended audience for this track, Sarika?
Well, I would say primarily influencers anywhere in the organization, and whoever believes that he or she is an influencer, right? And I think most of us, I would say, end up being influencers. We just mm-hmm. need to see the influencer in ourselves. And I remember doing the podcast with yourself, right? Talking mm-hmm. about the influencers in the agile world. So given that context, I would say pretty much any influencer in any part of the organization, leaders for sure, because they are the automatic or the default influencers in different parts of the organization, and anyone who believes they're change agents.
Yeah, that's a good point. I know you brought up the influence word, and it was interesting. I was having a conversation with someone yesterday. They said, I'm not a leader, but I want to influence change. And they were asking me. So I think this sounds like a perfect track for people like that.
Indeed.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah. So I think this is a great track. I'm so appreciative of you being here, Sarika. Any closing thoughts before we wrap up?
That's a trick question, isn't it? Well, I would just say, I think when you look at change, just like you would look at anything, I would say every change journey is unique. There's no one size fits all, mm-hmm. and we're all on our own unique change journeys, whether they're personal journeys or whether they are organizational change journeys. So, hey, create your own change manifesto using the agile values and principles, and move away from thinking linear to a more feedback-driven approach to change.
Yeah. So good. Thank you so much, Sarika. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me, Tom.
Excellent. Now, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. On behalf of Sarika, I am Tom Henriksen for the Agile Online Summit.